This is Norific, a Roblox obby builder who sometime in 2022 started up yet another project. Not thinking anything massive will come out of it, he started work on a short beginner obby, or so he thought.
Along the way, and when I finished building it, I was really satisfied with the length, but I felt like I could build more, and so I did.
And on January 4th, 2024, after almost 2 years of hard work, Devoid was finally released. Before we start this video, I'd really appreciate if you could subscribe. Only a small percentage of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed, and I want to reach 10,000 subscribers in 2025. So if you could hit that red button, it would mean the world to me. Anyway, let's get back into the video. This is Devoid. At this moment, it's the longest tiered obby on all of Roblox. For those of you not in the obbying scene, tiered obbies are ranked by difficulty from tier 1 to 25. Tier 1, easy, barely even a challenge. On the other hand, tier 25 is simply humanly impossible. One big difference with tiered obbies, they don't give you checkpoints. Unlike games like Mega Fun Obby, where you get a checkpoint after every stage, tiered obbies don't hold back. Devoid is like Tower of Hell. It doesn't spare the player at all. But here's the difference. Devoid has 2,000 jumps and is way harder. The story of Devoid starts with Norific, a Roblox obby creator who isn't super well known, but has always made fun, creative obbies. Devoid wasn't supposed to be anything ambitious, just another small, simple project. And then, everything changed. One day, Norific was watching a video about a difficulty chart obby, and one of the stages caught his attention. A dark, creepy, and mysterious level that stood out from the rest. It gave him an idea. What if I made an entire obby with this kind of vibe? Inspired, he got to work. At first, the jumps came together easily. It was just a cool little obby with a dark and eerie theme. But when Norific finished, something about it felt incomplete. He realized he could take it even further. And so, he kept building. Brick after brick, jump after jump, Devoid kept growing. What started as a simple idea turned into a massive project. Norific set his sights on something much bigger, creating the longest obby in Roblox history. But ambition isn't always easy. As the project dragged on, Norific started to lose steam. He realized he didn't have the time or the passion for such a huge undertaking anymore. And quite frankly, he'd started to grow out of obbies entirely. Eventually, he abandoned the project, and Devoid was left unfinished. But then came Geo. Norific, knowing he wouldn't be able to finish the project, he handed it over to a friend. Geo saw more than just an obby, he saw potential in Devoid. The idea of creating the longest obby wasn't just a challenge to Geo. This would be his biggest project by a mile. But he knew one thing, he couldn't do it alone. Geo reached out to his friend, Illusion, another experienced and skilled builder. Together, the three of them dove headfirst into the project. Brick by brick, jump by jump, they spent months building the obby. And their hard work paid off. The three of them pushed the obby to over 1,400 jumps. A massive feat by any standard. But as time went on, the sheer size of the project started to wear them down. Motivation slipped away, and the team took a break. For a while, it seemed like the obby would just get left at that, and wouldn't keep going. But they weren't ready to give up just yet. When they returned to Devoid, they brought in a new builder to the team, Crazy Zenith. Crazy would be a very useful addition to the project, helping make 1/5 of the section known as Big C. By far the section with the most jumps in the entire obby, with over 600. She built 130 of them. A number that might not sound huge, but the effort it takes to make a mere 20 jumps can take hours or days at times. As the project grew even larger, more builders joined the team. Each brought their skills and creativity to the table, as well as helping playtest this absolute behemoth, turning the dream of building the longest obby on Roblox into a reality. On January 4th, 2024, after roughly a year and a half of work, Devoid was complete. The longest tiered obby in Roblox history was officially released to the world. Upon release, many quickly realized that the jumps of the obby weren't actually that difficult. It was the sheer length and patience it required that made it so formidable. While at the start some did attempt to make progress on it, nearly everyone ended up dropping it. Usually, when grinding obbies, you try to learn the strategies for each jump and just try to be as precise as possible. But this was entirely different. People weren't used to spending hours upon hours doing quite simple jumps. Devoid as an obby is a master of making the player comfortable, making them do easy jumps until it becomes tiring, and then a single fail launches the player to the very bottom. This type of torture was too much for most people. But then came Bassel. Bassel got introduced to the obby when a friend of theirs named Cappy showed it to them. Knowing Bassel enjoyed consistency-based obbies rather than skill-based ones, Cappy thought that it would be a quite good fit for him. While the 2000 brutal jumps seemed daunting to Bassel at first, he kept grinding it, since there wasn't anyone else really making any progress or even trying to. Everyone thought something like this is just impossible. Bassel knew that the obby took months if not years to make, and for no one to be grinding it just seemed quite saddening, so he set out to do it himself. Before this though, Bassel wasn't a very well-known obbyist. They started their obby journey in 2016 by playing the popular obby game Flood Escape 2, playing it quite consistently up until 2019 when they switched to Juke's Towers of Hell, now known as Eternal Towers of Hell. Probably the most well-known obby game today if you're a Roblox player trying to improve your skill. Bassel beat his first insane difficulty tower in 2021. Enjoying the thrill of beating difficult towers, he beat his first extreme difficulty tower in early 2022, and then his first terrifying and catastrophic, the hardest cannon difficulty, in late 2022. Ever since then, Bassel has been playing tiered obbies here and there, but not really taking on any massive challenges, until February 2024, when he got introduced to Devoid. Bassel's grind began in February 2024. At first, it seemed like an exciting new challenge, but the reality of what laid ahead quickly set in. Knowing there were 2,000 jumps to complete was daunting, and the sheer scale of the task made it hard to stay motivated. The first major roadblock came early, just 200 jumps in: the prison. A maze-like section with a safety net. The prison consists of nearly 100 jumps, but don't let that fool you. This is one of the hardest sections in the entire obby. Its confusing layout makes it difficult to navigate, and every single jump feels like a challenge. The thought of pushing past this, only to face side A, a massive 350 jump pillar with no safety net, was discouraging. One mistake on side A meant restarting the entire run. And then came side B, even longer and just as ruthless. Side B added to the pressure. A single slip could send Bassel back to square one. While struggling in the prison, he couldn't shake the overwhelming thought of what laid ahead. But little did he know, the worst was yet to come. For Bassel, the most difficult section wasn't the prison. It wasn't even Side A or Side B. It was what came after. After weeks of grinding, Bassel finally made progress. He conquered the prison, braved Side A, and survived Side B. But even after all of that, he was only halfway through the obby. The real challenge was just beginning. The Big C, the longest section in the entire obby, stretching over 650 jumps. While Side B required precise skill, the Big C tested something even more difficult: mental endurance. Failing the same section over and over again was demoralizing. When asked about the most motivating moment of the grind, Bassel recalled, "This definitely is the one time I was doing a run which lasted for roughly 60 hours. I was stuck at the end of checkpoint 3 of the Big C and kept failing near the very final jumps." Grinding Devoid is different from most high difficulty obbies. It's not just about skill, it's about resilience. Bassel had to plan his grinding sessions meticulously. An hour of playtime wasn't nearly enough. Even as he improved, doubts remained. He still believed he might never beat it. But after weeks of making it to checkpoint 3, something changed. He started to think maybe, just maybe, it was possible. This is the Big C, 650 jumps of pure torture. It's not just the longest section in Devoid, it's the most mentally punishing. Just an endless sequence of jumps designed to wear you down, physically and mentally. While Side B may have been harder in raw difficulty, nothing in the entire obby tested Bassel's endurance quite like this. Hour after hour, failure after failure, the cycle repeated. A single mistake meant starting over. A missed input, a moment of hesitation, back to the checkpoint. 60 hours of loop failing. Failing the same jumps over and over and over again. The game itself fought against him, occasionally kicking him out. It wasn't just about skill anymore. It was all about resilience. Most players quit long before this point. Even the best competitors for Bassel had only made it to Side A in hardcore mode before giving up. The thought of starting over so many times was enough to drain every ounce of motivation. And Bassel wasn't immune to this. At least 3 times, he gave up completely, convinced the grind wasn't worth it. There was even a point where he questioned if the obby was even possible on 60 FPS. Later, a new rule in the top obbies community was implemented, where players were now allowed to switch to higher FPS as a result of the new Roblox feature where FPS could get changed. And even then, the Big C didn't get any easier. But Bassel pushed on, and Bassel was going to see the end. After nearly a year of grinding, over 200 hours of attempts, and countless moments of frustration, Bassel had finally made it to the final stretch of Devoid. This was it, the last few jumps, the culmination of months of suffering, loop failing, and near completions. But even now, it wasn't over yet. After an incredibly brutal grind, Bassel had finally made it past the Big C. As the whole development team and his supporters were watching, Bassel entered the final stretch. Everyone knew the obby was going to get beaten. Right now. Bassel had been waiting for this moment for almost an entire year. From starting with Flood Escape in 2016 to this, Bassel had come a long way in his obbying journey. And this could be the pinnacle of it. After all the motivation hurdles and almost 2,000 jumps, Bassel was on the final stretch. This final section wasn't about skill anymore. Bassel had already beaten it, and all it took was to beat the very last section. The chat was already flooding with people congratulating Bassel, and he just had to take it all in. Bassel approached the last couple of jumps. While not the hardest, at this point, Bassel could fail anything if not careful enough. And then, the final jumps began. This was it. After countless hours, endless failures, and an unbreakable will, Bassel stood at the edge of destiny. As he climbed the final hill, a surge of energy pulsed through him, an overwhelming, almost unreal realization that the end was right there, within reach. But one final challenge remained, the last jump. A single leap that would define everything. A jump that could solidify his legacy, or send him spiraling back to the start, forced to endure the grind once more. The weight of every moment, every setback, every ounce of effort came down to this. With each step toward the edge, the air grew heavier, the tension unbearable. Would he make history, or would Devoid claim him once again? He did it. Devoid was finally verified. A year of struggle, and it was finally over. As he beat the obby, he felt pure relief. Knowing that all the fails and the time he spent grinding wouldn't go to waste felt incredible. But even then, a slight wave of sadness came over him. He knew that the grind to beat Devoid is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The friends he made along the way and all the people who gave him support meant a lot. But mostly, he was just happy and relieved. The grind was about the people who stuck by his side cheering him on through every failure, and everyone who believed in him, even when he doubted himself. Would he ever take on something like this again? Probably not. This was a once-in-a-lifetime grind, but one thing was certain. This was a journey he'd never forget. And that is how Roblox's longest obby was beaten.